Until the Japanese invasion at the beginning of the 20th century, Korea was an independent peninsula. The occupation period lasted from 1910 to 1945, exactly when World War II ended and Japan had to surrender towards the Allies, which included yielding their annexed territories. It was then where the USA occupied the south, while the Soviet Union occupied the north, dividing Korea in two by the 30th parallel. In 1950, an unexpected motion occurred. The North had directed an attack toward the South, starting what is known today as the Korean War. The ceasefire was slowly settled down in 1953 after the negotiations had started in 1951. Ever since, both nations are in a hostile status and the war hasn't officially ended.
눈이 부셔 No 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 너무 깜짝깜짝 놀란 나는 Oh 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 너무 짜릿짜릿 몸이 떨려 지지지지지
You're experiencing the globalization of Korean culture. This through an effect or wave called Hallyu, or also known as the Korean Wave. It catalogs all the cultural aspects that South Korea is trying to give to the world. The strategy itself comes from the Ministry of Cultural Tourism, and it started off back in the 80s after the Sixth Republic of Korea is founded. This means it's a period when the dictatorships end finally in South Korea and establishes a republic, and all the laws against censorship get completely nullified. Thus, they are open to the US and to just the whole world. And after a report done by the Hyundai Institute, they found out that Jurassic Park was doing much more income in sales than Hyundai cars, which are basically the nation's pride. So after such statistic, the government realized it had to do something, and it had to orientate their own wave and their own influence to the cultural aspect because they saw how much profit it was doing. They compared it, and a dinosaurs movie was doing much more money than cars, which are actually useful stuff. In the case of the Korean wave, it started off through TV dramas, which are currently known as K-dramas or Korean dramas series. These started off through two types of channels, which was romantic show and a cultural show. So that's why Korean history shows are super important and super popular, because they started off since this time. And they started going to Japan, and mothers started seeing them, and after Japan they went to China and other close regions. And while that was happening, Korea was gaining the world's attention with their TV shows. K-pop emerged, and K-pop itself as a genre started with Sea of Taiji and the Boys, which was a triplet who danced and did kind of urban songs, because South Korea was used to ballad songs, so they just had a bunch of really talented people singing in the music shows such as Inkiyago, the show M Countdown, and of course those weren't established as they are known right now, but that was the concept that they were bringing to the musical industry. This group of guys just goes and shows a completely different type of show that the Korean society was used to. Of course, this gained just a bunch of attention from the people, and not only the people, but also the enterprises. Consider the charitable companies already being established, as after the Sixth Republic, the government started supporting these individuals and the multinationals. So they tried building them. So just imagine the Aisle company from Hyundai or from Samsung or from Lotte. But they actually saw that it wasn't profitable and it wasn't something they could sustain properly because they weren't specialized in such area. That was when around the 2000s SM Entertainment arose, founded by Lee Soo-man, and having groups such as TVXQ, Formula X, SHINee, Super Junior, and BoA debuted in their early days. They marked a period in idol history. And it's possible to say that the beginnings of K-pop was definitely paved by Lee Soo-man, who's the founder of the company. Further in time, other areas of the culture started gaining attention, not only just K-pop and Korean dramas, but later the film industry has gained a bunch of attention with the Korean shows and movies. For example, Parasite marked a period in the Oscars. It marked a period in award shows because this wasn't seen before. It's usually US and American-based content the one that won. So it was not only just a step ahead for Korean media, but also for the globalization of the awards. Furthermore, 2021 was Squid Game year and the whole revolution that came after it. And one of the key features and interesting things is South Korean media has not just gained popularity because it's interesting and it's great, it has a great production, but also because it shows reality. And it's something that South Korean government, even though it pains to contribute to and it pains to be globalizing, it did call people's attention because it's fulfilling the need of cultural impact and cultural development. Deeper into the Hallyu Wave, because Hallyu is not only K-pop, it's not only K-dramas. Then, if it's not K-pop or Korean dramas, then what is Hallyu? Because that's what we see every day. If I go on Instagram, I'm probably gonna see just BTS dancing. Well, just basically take Hallyu as one of those like big ices you see on social media and locate K-pop on the tip of it. And you know, an iceberg just has like a small tip and just this big structure underneath the water. That's Hallyu, because Hallyu is not only composed of K-pop and K-dramas, but it rather includes all the different types of art, so contemporary art, literature, drama, as in theater, musical theater, ballet. It's a really big thing that nobody dares to explore because it's not as mainstream, but it has still earned a bunch of money for the government. Okay, so the main actors. Who are the main actors? If you already know that it involves art, then is it just the artist? Or like whom else is involved? Am I involved? Well, yes. We can count this Hallyu having three main actors. The artist, of course, who trains and exceeds in their own discipline. The politicians, who are the ones that originally passed and built on strategy. And you and me, the fans. And I could be years talking about how the fans have been the ones that have grown South Korea's economy from afar as being foreigners. Because even though the people of South Korea have been contributing to their economy in such a way, it would not compare to the impact that us fans have. I'm the one that pays my own money to just go and see this K-pop groups live in concert. Like, they're so amazing. And yeah, so am I the one contributing fully to their economy? That's so crazy. But hey, what about the politicians? Like, you said they were the ones to build like whole strategy and thing after they saw like Jurassic Park just did more income. What else? Like, aren't they involved like way deeper? Of course they are. They're politicians. Consider Hallyu and the whole power that this has as a small ball in their hands. We can call this soft power. Soft power is a type of power that is concentrated through social mediums. So it's controlling people and which populations as a mass through social aspects, either it being movie or a public figure or a sportsman. It's just considering this, and we can acknowledge this type of beings inside of Hallyu. We can see them as K-pop idols or as K-pop of K-actors. And this is a strategy that has been used by politicians nowadays, because what they're doing is having their idols and having important groups just go to political events. So as what happened in the White House and BTS, which wasn't even in Korea, but is a great example of that, or aespa and BTS again going to the UN, or BTS also being in the Blue House. It's having these public figures get into politic events to grab people's attention. It's just a way of getting your attention because you as a fan will be interested So this would not only get them like monetary power just because they're getting profit from your own wallet, but also because they're getting your attention. If they get people to talk about it in social media or just in newspapers or face to face, that's money for them because you're getting the conversation on. That's part of the whole globalization of South Korea. That's what they wanted.
I'm the biggest hit on the stage.
Now, let's talk about the impact of the Hallyu Wave as a whole. If we were to divide the impact, we will have the political and economical impact, and on the other hand, the social impact. Regarding the political and economical impact, we can find definitely the profit and the growth in GDP, especially considering South Korea's new economy as they have only 70 years of modern history. They were able to just see that the world was moving and they weren't. This was a time in which the tables were invented and this whole bunch of innovative things came into their society, things that until today have been completely exploited. And this is seen not only just through the whole image of idol media, but also Samsung phones, Hyundai cars. It's going to South Korean society and seeing the development they have in their own technologies, to say it that way. And it's also having the mentality of society, which is the side effect of the social part. We're going back to the effect that Hallyu has brought to South Korea in a political way, is the gain and loss of allies. So considering the Korean War, Korea and Japan have a really sketchy relationship up to nowadays because Japan did commit really serious war crimes in South Korea, especially since they were part of the Japan Empire. So there are things they still haven't apologized for, such as comfort women, but they have kind of gotten better in the relationship due to him too. So just like knowing that Japanese idols are coming in the industry, or they're also debuting in Japan with their same groups without having just to do like an exclusive like Japanese idol group. On the other hand, there's China, and South Korea and China have a better relationship compared to Japan, but it's currently also really sketchy because Chinese society believes that South Korea is appropriating most of their culture, which is technically true in a historical manner, and it's not as inaccurate because both China and Japan did play a role into building South Korean society, but not in a good way, but actually like killing their own original culture. But now Chinese have a huge trouble like Korean statements. So when BTS some years ago was celebrating things regarding the independence of South Korea, China was like, we don't agree with this. And that's when they forbid exclusive K-pop acts from acting in Chinese scenarios. So that's why companies have exclusive Chinese groups or just groups that don't focus, especially on K-pop, in order to advertise in these places, even though K-pop isn't censored completely in the Chinese country. On the other hand, with the US, relationships have built stronger, and this was actually seen with BTS going in the White House and BTS being much more involved like US policies, because it's also beneficial for the US to continue being partners with Korea, because not only just like the free trade policies, but also just the US is one of the superpowers currently. So if South Korea doesn't use properly this opportunity, they will be just probably disposing a bunch of stuff. And with other countries such as Colombia, that was a close ally back in the Korean War, they just still have a close relationship, and it's one of the examples that Korea feels that they are in a historical debt with these nations that went in to help with the UN Security Council mission back in the war, and they're still helping because you can see that the wave and the benefits from there have also helped the wave in these countries. So Latin America is one of the regions in which you can see the wave developing. But Colombia has this point in favor, that's the whole treaties and the historical debt that makes the countries even closer. So the economical and political effect has just been growth. And growth towards a positive thing, growth towards a bigger GDP and a better life scheme for a lot of people, but which isn't completely true because South Korea still has their social issues to a socio-economical level, but it has still gotten better compared to the days of the war and post-war and the dictatorships that came later. And other effects such as tourism and the employees that are just like built upon. So there's statistics showing that BTS and their music videos in the latest years have contributed to a bunch of works, and their concerts too have contributed to the whole economy. So if BTS does a concert, they will be bringing a bunch of people from other countries, which will fuel the economy, not only the tourist level, but also in totals and just South Korea as a whole. That's why other events have been possible to be proposed for. So, for example, South Korea is currently raising their hand for 2030 World Expo Busan, in which they use BTS to, well, advertise these events. So it's definitely super important what's happening, and the trend will keep on growing. South Korean economy will keep on growing after this. On the other hand, the social effect hasn't been as positive, I would consider, because it has brought in really complex things towards people, and it has dehumanized people somehow. Because South Korean society is a really strict society, the fact that they have much more pressure coming from outwards makes it harder to cope with. So we have in the West our ideas, they have their ideas on the East, so it's just a clash of ideals, and it's hard. But it has also taught people how to be tolerant, because these societies do have racist conduct due to historical manners and historical education. But having the westernized views has helped, and I believe if it does have a positive response, it could even just lead to better social relations amongst foreigners and Korean people, which will further require anti-discrimination policies that haven't been passed yet. But I believe that South Korean society and Hallyu has demonstrated them that they will have to keep on growing socially as a society, because you don't live in the world alone, and you just have to start accepting that people want your country and people want to know about your culture, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of that, because that's the whole purpose of Hallyu. So I think it has taught everyone a valuable lesson about how is our world changing and how it will keep growing. It has also taught the lessons regarding exploitation and work ethics, which is definitely a side effect in the debate inside of K-pop and other industries, but it isn't the main focus of the social effect that Hallyu has had, but it's rather how it has impacted millions around the world. So what I was saying about just fans being one of the most important people inside of Hallyu, because without the fans, Hallyu wouldn't exist. You wouldn't know the Korean wave as it is. They wouldn't be making millions of like people's wallets if they weren't any fans. But there are a bunch of fans, and that's the most important social effect. For example, I am wearing Korean-inspired makeup. A bunch of people love Korean-based fashion, Korean language, Korean culture, Korean food. EXO Suho, their leader, commented on his Stanford speech with the beginnings of the Korean program back in the university, and they said he was extremely excited as a Korean and as an artist to see that people were interested in his culture. That's the whole purpose of Hallyu. And if we as citizens of the world start tolerating each other and opening ourselves into embracing new cultures and our own, we're building a globalized society without leaving each country behind. We are building an interconnected world, and we are helping our economy.